What started as a nostalgic trip to find a buried childhood memory has turned into a literal nightmare. The soil here is ice cold, and my metal detector is going haywire over a box that seems to be breathing. We are about to open a portal to a subterranean entity I unknowingly invited into my life decades ago. Those were the last calm words I recorded before everything changed. The footage still exists. I've watched it dozens of times, trying to understand where exactly the nightmare began. The obvious answer would be when we dug up the box, or when we translated the carvings, or when the ground started screaming. But the truth is that it began much earlier. It started when I was 8 years old. My name is Daniel Mercer. In the summer of 2026, I returned to the rural Pennsylvania town where I grew up after my mother passed away. While cleaning out her attic, I discovered a dusty sketchbook buried beneath old family photographs. At first it seemed ordinary. The pages contained hundreds of childish drawings. Forests, houses, animals, random symbols. I smiled while turning the pages, remembering almost none of them. Then I found something strange. Every few pages there were clusters of numbers, long strings of numbers written in shaky pencil. At first I assumed they were childish nonsense, but one sequence repeated over and over, again and again, sometimes hidden inside tree branches, sometimes disguised as stars, sometimes scribbled beneath strange circular patterns. The numbers looked oddly familiar. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I entered them into a GPS converter. My smile disappeared. They were coordinates, exact coordinates, coordinates leading deep into the forest behind my childhood home, a place I hadn't visited in nearly 20 years. The next morning I drove there. The forest looked smaller than I remembered. The trees seemed older, darker. The coordinate markers stopped in a clearing roughly 30 feet across. Nothing appeared unusual. No structures, no landmarks, just dirt and weeds. I almost left. Then I noticed a faded wooden stake protruding from the ground. The moment I saw it, a memory surfaced. A time capsule. When I was 8 years old, my father had helped me bury one. I remembered filling a small metal box with drawings, toys, photographs, and notes for my future self. The realization felt exciting, nostalgic. I contacted my friend Tyler, who operated a small YouTube channel focused on urban exploration. He loved the idea. 2 days later, we returned with cameras, digging equipment, and a metal detector. Neither of us knew we were walking directly into something that had been waiting decades. The forest felt wrong from the moment we arrived. The air seemed unusually cold. Birds avoided the clearing entirely. Even insects were absent. Tyler joked about cursed treasure while setting up cameras. I laughed. The laughter sounded forced. The metal detector located the object almost immediately. The signal was so strong the speaker emitted a constant shriek. We marked the spot and began digging. The deeper we went, the colder the soil became. At 3 feet down, frost appeared on the shovel blades. It was July. The temperature outside exceeded 80 degrees. Yet, beneath the dirt, the ground felt frozen. Tyler noticed it too. Neither of us could explain it. Then we struck metal. A hollow clang echoed upward. Excitement briefly replaced our unease. We cleared away the remaining soil. The box emerged slowly. It wasn't the small steel container I remembered. It was much larger, approximately 3 feet long, black, smooth, covered in intricate carvings, and somehow untouched by corrosion. The surface looked brand new. My stomach tightened. "This isn't my time capsule," I whispered. Then the box moved, only slightly, a faint expansion beneath the surface, like something inhaling.
Tyler laughed nervously. I remember looking and laughing. Neither of us were. The camera captured everything.
The box appeared to expand and contract at regular intervals. That was the only word that fit. Logic told me it had to be an illusion, a trick of shadows, a product of nerves. Yet even now I can see it happening in the footage. Breathing. We should have stopped. Instead, we opened it. Breaking the seal required tremendous effort. The lid seemed fused shut. When it finally gave way, a gust of freezing air erupted outward. Both of us staggered backward. The smell that emerged was unforgettable. Not decay, not mold, something older. Wet stone, deep earth, ancient water trapped beneath mountains. Inside the box sat dozens of objects, arranged with impossible precision. At first glance, they looked like artifacts. Then we began examining them, and reality started unraveling. There were glass vials containing biological samples suspended in clear fluid. The labels displayed manufacturing dates. I thought they were jokes, replicas, pranks. Then Tyler found a small metallic device resembling a medical scanner. Its surface displayed symbols unlike any language either of us recognized. There were photographs too. Photographs printed on materials neither of us could identify. Images depicting structures buried underground, massive chambers, tunnel networks, towering formations that resembled skeletons made from stone. One photograph showed a landscape split open like an enormous wound. On the back, someone had written a date, September 17, 2048. My pulse quickened. Every object inside the box appeared impossible. The deeper we searched, the worse it became. Beneath the artifacts lay hundreds of thin sheets covered in carvings. The symbols matched patterns from my childhood drawings. Exactly. I stared at them for several minutes. My hands shook because I suddenly remembered something. As a child, I hadn't invented those symbols. I copied them night after night without understanding why. Memories surfaced, sitting alone in my bedroom, drawing circles, repeating shapes, listening. The realization hit me like ice water. I remembered hearing a voice, not spoken aloud, something inside my head, whispering while I slept, dictating. My mother thought I had an active imagination. My father assumed I was dreaming. Eventually the voices stopped, or maybe I stopped hearing them. But the drawings remained. The carvings inside the box proved they had come from somewhere. Something. Tyler suggested taking everything to a university. A rational solution, a normal solution. Then we found the final object, a black stone tablet embedded into the bottom of the container. Its surface pulsed faintly beneath our flashlights. Across the center stretched rows of symbols identical to those from my sketchbook, and beneath them was a sequence of numbers, a countdown, days, hours, minutes, seconds, except every value displayed 0. The countdown had ended exactly when we opened the box. Neither of us spoke for nearly a minute. The silence felt crushing. Then the forest changed. A vibration passed through the ground, subtle, barely noticeable. The cameras trembled slightly. Tyler looked at me. "Did you feel that?" I nodded. The vibration came again, stronger. Something deep beneath the clearing seemed to be moving. We packed everything and left. At least that was the plan. But curiosity defeated common sense. We rented equipment, scanned the artifacts, photographed every symbol. Within days, we contacted linguists, cryptographers, and pattern analysts. Most ignored us. One researcher responded, a retired linguistics professor named Dr. Eleanor Graves. She examined the carvings remotely. The moment she saw them, her attitude changed. She requested every image we possessed. 24 hours later, she drove 6 hours to meet us. Personally, I will never forget her expression. Fear. Genuine fear. She explained that portions of the symbols resembled markings discovered in unhighlighted archaeological sites worldwide, sites connected by impossible similarities, ancient tunnels, subterranean chambers, Legends describing voices emerging from beneath the earth. Civilizations separated by thousands of miles had recorded the same geometric patterns, the same spirals, those same warnings. Dr. Graves spent 3 days translating fragments. When she finally revealed her findings, I wished she hadn't. The carvings weren't instructions. They were records, messages, communications between something below and something above. One translated phrase appeared repeatedly. The tether remans. Another phrase appeared near the countdown. When the final marker falls, the path opens. Then she examined my childhood drawings. Hours passed in silence. Finally she looked up, pale, shaken. You didn't create these. I nodded slowly. I know. She pointed toward several pages. The symbols formed structured sentences. Accurate sentences. The handwriting belonged to an 8-year-old child, but the language represented something ancient, something impossibly old. According to her translation, many of the drawings weren't drawings at all. They were dictations, messages copied by a child who couldn't understand them, messages from whatever had buried the box, or perhaps from whatever wanted it found. That night I opened the sketchbook again. For the first time, I examined every page carefully. Patterns emerged. Certain symbols repeated beside the coordinates. Others formed maps. Some appeared alongside crude illustrations of tunnels. Then I discovered the final page, a page I somehow never remembered. My breath stopped. The drawing showed a massive shape beneath the earth. Not an animal, not a person, something enormous. Countless limbs extending through underground chambers. At the top of the page, written in my childhood handwriting, were words that Dr. Graves translated the next morning. Do not pull the tether. If it awakens, look away. The vibrations began increasing that same day. Seismographs across the county recorded unusual activity. Local authorities dismissed it as natural tectonic movement. Dr. Graves disagreed. The frequency patterns were wrong, perfectly synchronized, deliberate, like signals. The clearing became the epicenter. Against every instinct, we returned. We needed answers. Or maybe we needed proof that none of this was real. Multiple cameras recorded continuously. The vibrations intensified throughout the evening. At sunset, the ground emitted a low hum. Not loud, but powerful. The sound seemed to resonate inside bones, inside teeth, inside the skull itself. By midnight, the humming had become unbearable. Trees trembled. Loose rocks danced across the soil. The black box sat open at the center of the clearing, waiting. Dr. Graves translated additional carvings while Tyler monitored equipment. I wandered toward the excavation site. Something drew me there, a familiarity I couldn't explain. Then I heard it, a voice, the same voice from childhood, soft, patient, ancient, Daniel. The whisper emerged from beneath the ground, not through my ears, inside my head, exactly as I remembered. My legs froze, the voice continued. We waited, images flooded my mind. Dark tunnels, endless caverns, stone structures older than humanity. Something moving below them all. Something impossibly vast. I stumbled backward. The vibration surged. Every camera alarm activated simultaneously. Tyler shouted. Dr. Graves dropped her notes. The ground split open. A crack appeared beside the excavation. Then another, and another. The forest erupted with noise, not earthquakes, not collapsing rock. Voices. Thousands of voices, screaming in perfect synchronization. The sound was deafening. The earth itself seemed alive. I fell to my knees, clutching my ears. Blood trickled from Tyler's nose. Dr. Graves screamed for us to leave. Then something emerged from the crack. Not a creature, a limb, or part of one. Dark, immense, covered in patterns identical to the carvings. The surface moved like living stone. For one horrifying second, I understood the scale, the tunnels, the messages, the countdown. The entity below wasn't buried, it was the ground, or connected to it. A living structure spanning unimaginable distances beneath the planet's crust. The limb withdrew instantly, but the glimpse was enough. Tyler's camera captured 3 frames before malfunctioning permanently. 3 frames that still keep me awake. The screaming intensified. The synchronized voices shifted into words, ancient words. Words that Dr. Graves somehow understood. "The tether is broken," she shouted the translation over the noise. "The tether is broken." Then she looked directly at me, and I realized the truth. I was the tether. The drawings, the coordinates, the messages. They had never been memories. They were preparations the entity had used me, an 8-year-old child. It placed the coordinates inside my mind, ensured I would eventually return, ensured I would open the box when the countdown ended. Everything had happened exactly as intended. The realization shattered something inside me. The voice returned. "You remembered." The ground heaved upward. Trees toppled. Massive fissures spread through the clearing. Something below was rising. Not physically, not completely, but enough. The tether had connected our world to whatever existed beneath it, and now that connection was open. Dr. Graves grabbed my arm. We ran. Tyler followed. The screaming chased us through the forest. Branches snapped overhead. The earth buckled beneath our feet. Several times I glanced backward. Each glance revealed movement inside the widening cracks. Shapes, patterns, limbs, impossible geometries shifting below the surface. Nothing should have been able to exist at that scale, yet it was there, waiting, awakening. Halfway to the vehicles, I remembered the sketchbook, the final page, the warning. "If it tokens, look away." I understood then. The warning wasn't about fear, it was about perception. Seeing it seemed to strengthen the connection. Each glimpse made the voice clearer, stronger, intimate. I forced myself to stare forward. The whisper became angry, then desperate, then impossibly sad. We reached the trucks just as the forest erupted behind us. A column of earth rose into the night sky. Trees vanished into darkness. The screaming reached a final crescendo. Then silence, absolute silence. No vibrations, no voices, nothing. We drove until sunrise. None of us spoke. The footage was reviewed repeatedly over the following weeks. Most recordings failed during the critical moments. Audio corrupted. Files vanished. Equipment malfunctioned. Only fragments remained. Enough to prove something happened. Not enough to explain it. Government agencies eventually closed the area. Official reports cited geological instability. No further information was released. Dr. Graves disappeared 6 months later. No explanation. No trace. Tyler abandoned his channel. He refuses to discuss the incident. As for me, I still have the sketchbook. I keep it locked away. Most pages remain unchanged, except for one detail. The final page no longer ends with the warning. New symbols continue appearing, very slowly, one every few weeks, written in the same childish handwriting, my handwriting. The translations terrify me, because they suggest the tether was never fully severed. The most recent message appeared 3 nights ago. Only 4 words. 4 simple words. 4 words that convinced me to finally tell this story. I translated them this morning, and now I understand why the entity wanted me to find the coordinates. Why it waited 20 years. Why it buried impossible artifacts inside that box. The message reads, "The path remains open, and sometimes, late at night, when the house is silent and the world seems asleep, I feel faint vibrations beneath the floorboards. Not earthquakes, not machinery. A rhythm, slow, steady, like breathing, and every time I hear it, I remember the black box emerging from frozen soil. I remember the countdown reaching 0. I remember the screaming beneath the earth. Most of all, I remember the final thing I saw before we escaped, deep inside one of those cracks, far below the roots and stone. An enormous eye opening in the darkness, watching, waiting, recognizing me. And I cannot shake the feeling that someday, when the countdown reaches whatever comes next, it won't need coordinates anymore, because it already knows exactly where I am.